to the new episode of the First Responder Playbook. It is my absolute pleasure to have the ladies from the Oklahoma Women on Fire with me tonight. They do a lot of lovely stuff for women in firefighting roles, leadership roles, expanding and making themselves better each day. I'm going to let them give themselves a better intro than I just did because I'm terrible at that stuff. So, Angie, Kendall, Alexa, you guys give yourself a proper introduction.
Go ahead, girls.
My
Well,
name's
I'm
Alexa.
Angie Retzloff. Oh, go,
Well,
go.
I don't know. In my screen, I'm up first, so I don't know how I look on y'all's
Yeah,
computer.
go ahead.
I'm Alexa Reed. I am in Tulsa. I came on about probably a little over 9 years ago. Me and Kendall came on together. We're in the same academy. Um, I also do hazmat currently. Um, I have two kids, lots of animals, lots of chickens. But I stay pretty busy when I'm not on shift. So, uh, yeah.
Angie, what about you?
Well, I'm at Chappaqua Fire Department, and I've been on for coming up on 5 years now.
Is
So
it really
three,
5 years?
yes, 5 years. So
Dang.
three of those were volunteer, and then it'll be 2 years in July for full time. So a little over three on the volunteer side, and then almost in July it'll be 2 years for that. So I'm also a licensed massage therapist, so that's what I do in my off time. And I've got two kids as well. They're grown, so they're 24 and 20, but they still live at home, so that's good.
Well, and,
And
and I don't want to sell yourself short a little bit, but we had never met till tonight. But your
yeah,
reputation preceded you in that we know a lot of the same people. You didn't tell everybody that you're a CrossFit badass too.
well, yeah, I was. I have now retired from CrossFit, and I've moved into the ultra running world. So that's where I'm at with that now. So yeah.
Kendall, what about you?
Yeah, so Kendall Taylor. Like Alexa said, I also work currently for Tulsa Fire. I am at the rescue station, so I'm a rescue tech. I also have two kids that are 21 and 13, and then I have two stepkids. My husband is a Tulsa fireman as well. And Alexa and I created what is now Oklahoma Women on Fire back in 2018. Originally, it was Tulsa Metro Women on Fire. And was it July of last year? We decided to go ahead and rebrand to just encompass and include the entire state. We just felt like this group was something a lot of women across the state wanted to be a part of, and even outside of the state. We've had girls come in from different states, different departments to help with camp, and just reach out, and we meet them in person at conferences and that kind of stuff. So we thought it was a good move to move to Oklahoma Women on Fire, and it was for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And so I want to talk a little bit about how did each one of y'all get into the fire service? As we were kind of discussing like beforehand, it's really a male dominated field. But ladies can be out there and be just as badass as the guys. So, what led you guys into getting into the fire service? I know Kendall was a first responder prior as a cop.
Right.
I got to back the blue, but
Oh yeah.
so how did you guys go into the fire world?
So mine was random. Like I had, I guess, just under 6 years of law enforcement time, and actually quit that to stay home when my son was born, and got a divorce. And I was working a couple part-time jobs, and I owned a small CrossFit gym. And a friend of mine I went to college with, he was like, "Hey, I work for the fire department. We really need to hire some females. I think you'd be really great at it." And I think that was in like April of 2015. And I went that fall and got my EMT, and it took me about a year to get hired on. And here I am. It had never crossed my mind to become a firefighter ever.
I
Angie,
had
what about
met,
you? Or Alexa, go
so
ahead.
I met Jamie, one of our camp ladies that helps out. She's with BA, and I met her at a friend's birthday party, and I'd overheard her talking about the firefighter world, and I just kind of started listening in, and I was like, wait, women can be firefighters? And so it kind of just started off that way. It struck a chord with me, and all of a sudden I kind of went down the path of, what do I need to do to get hired? And it took about a year for the process as well, and getting EMT, and then lo and behold, Kendall and I actually met each other for the first time ever in a Choctaw camp, which is now the Oklahoma City Girls Camp. So we're like
So
products
you
of
went
what we
full
kind of,
circle.
yeah. So it's pretty neat to tell that story to other campers, because they might one day, be in our camp and then get on with another department. And then, who knows if they're in the same academy class, or, if they're in the same city volunteering. We've had some girls already
Mhm.
north of Tulsa that got on together just recently that had started out with our camp. And so the numbers are there, and it's pretty just interesting to see over the years kind of where they go and then get feedback. Lately we've been getting some feedback from other states I'm getting on and getting gear, and so it's it's full circle, and it's just incredible to see.
That's awesome. Angie, what about you?
Well, I had no idea that this would come into my life at all. I mean, I'm 46 now, so I was 42, and Tahlequah didn't have any female firefighters, and they basically recruited me. I was friends with a lot of the guys that were down there. They knew who I was, and they knew all like what that I was into CrossFit, and they knew all the things that I like to get into. And so they actually approached me, some of the guys, and was like, "Man, we're pushing to get a female on, and we just think that this would be right up your alley. Like you would love this, and it'd be really good." And it took them a couple months to talk me into it, and really, like the deciding factor was, I really wanted just to see if I could pass the CPAT test. So I
Of
was like,
course
"Yeah,
you
let's
did. You
do it."
nailed it.
I was gonna say, what?
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
don't
it's
know. That
funny
was
because the guys at Tahlequah, Chief Casey Baker and them, I was in college around them, and they knew me, so they actually reached out to
yeah.
me to see what I thought about Angie getting hired on, to see if I would talk to her and manipulate her into trying.
Yeah, yeah. Because funny story, yeah. I was like, I don't know how I can fit that on my plate. My daughter was a junior in high school, and I was doing full-time massage. I was coaching CrossFit, but also competing. And it was like, I don't know where this is going to fit in. But it really just kept coming back to me and coming back to me. So it was finally like, okay, let's do this. And so I did. And immediately after getting on, one of our firefighter guys had already reached out to Kendall, but when they did, they were like, "Yeah, we have this girl, she's getting on, so we just kind of want her to have another female to touch base with, or if she needs anything or has any questions." And Kendall was like, "What's her name?" And they were like, "Angie Retzloff." And she goes, "I know her. We've known each other forever through CrossFit also." And so that's how, I immediately, she was like, "You want to be in our calendar?" I was like, "Absolutely." So that's kind of how that all happened right away.
I I love that. It's a very small world. I want to touch on something that you talked about in that you volunteered for several years.
Mhm.
Whether it's on the police side as a reserve police officer, there's a tons of volunteer fire departments in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Men and women out there literally donate their time to go serve their cities or counties, whatever it may be. How tough was that for you to volunteer for several years and then decide to go full time? When you started volunteering, did you get the bug and say, "Man, I want to go full time" at some point, or were you just doing it for fun? Like, talk about that.
Well, so Tahlequah is kind of different in the way that they do their hiring process. We're a combination department. So to get on full time, you kind of have to get on as a volunteer first. And then that's the whole plan and the whole idea. I mean, I'm self employed with massage, and a single mom, and the retirement, I wasn't even thinking about that. So that was kind of their, hey, this would be really good for you, and you can just make it, under the age limit, so I don't age out. That I can get retirement. So that was the big push. Like this would be fantastic for you. So in Tahlequah, you get on as a volunteer first, but they usually hire people that want to get on full time because they're investing their time and their money and everything in them. So that's kind of the whole process with Tahlequah. Now we do have some volunteers that they're going to stay there. So in my mind, that is what I was thinking, moving even into getting on volunteer. The goal was to get on full time eventually. So that was
That's
kind
awesome.
of, yeah, how that goes.
You know, the municipality I worked as a police officer, we were kind of unique in that we bumped up to Tulsa, and they had a full-time fire department in the city, but they also had a rural, still volunteer fire department from before everything was annexed in, and so they kind of co-responded in certain areas, and it was always amazing to see that they were one of the few that would have 24-hour staffing with just volunteers for so long. And it's because people wanted to get out there and serve their community. They wanted
Yeah.
to get better and go to a bigger department like TFD eventually, or hey, Broken Arrow. And these people go out there week after week and respond to calls for 24 hours at a time for
Mhm.
free. And
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah.
amazed me because I was there for, 10, 12 hours getting paid. And I'm like, man, it's time to go home. And they were just out there doing it for free. And they always earned my respect because
Yeah.
you would, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. The full time people were like, those volunteer guys, they don't know
Mhm.
near as much as us. And they work their ass off more than a lot of the
Yeah.
full time people did.
Facts. And
And
they're working with so much equipment that, I mean, they don't, because we do a lot of mutual aid. We have a lot of rural only strictly volunteer departments that we assist or work with. And it's like they don't have the money that cities have. So the stuff that that they have to do and work with is very minimal, but they still get the job done.
Oh yeah.
So when I hear, these big city guys talking about, oh, volunteers, it's like, I would like to see you even be able to do half the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
yeah, for
Like they're
sure.
exposed to just as much, if not more.
Yeah.
I think I saw a study where I would say full-time volunteers that put a ton of their time in bigger departments, responding as much as they can, they're actually a much higher risk of cancer than a paid
Mhm.
career.
Yeah, because their PPE sometimes is out of date or they don't have it and it doesn't fit. And and it's
Yeah.
crazy, like I work over in the Northwest Arkansas area quite a bit and visit a lot of departments, and so many of them, when Tulsa shows up to a house fire, there's 10 trucks fighting over spots. There's no shortage of people, but those volunteer departments, it could be only that one truck with two people on it for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Even
crazy.
telephones like that sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, there would be nights that we would go out and there'd be like one or two volunteers and
Hmm.
they'd be like, "It's just us until the ambulance gets
Yeah.
here." And I'm like,
And pair of
"Well, I
jeans
don't
and hey dudes.
yeah, I, I don't know anything, but here, let me help."
Yep.
You know, but I I love that, and you know, I always say that I will bust a firefighter's balls harder than anybody else, but it's because only I can do that because I give a shit. Like
Mhm.
the general public and vice versa. I know it's the same way. Like I got y'all's back all the time, and I hung out with the volunteers more than I did the full time people. Still to this day. So let's talk about the Oklahoma Women on Fire. How did you guys even go about that? Like, how did that idea just first start going?
Well, like Kendall said earlier, we used to be branded as Tulsa metro area. We were surrounding Tulsa area, and that was just kind of our leap into getting something started from the ground up. not knowing we were going to ever be this big, and going on 8 years into it, our girls are coming to us from all over Oklahoma saying, "Hey, I want to be a part of this organization. Hey, what does it take to help out camp, or submit and be into the calendar or whatever?" And so we're like, let's go big, let's rebrand. And so that's what we did last year. And it's able to broadcast a little bit bigger area, of course, but some of our new adventures, which if you follow us on our medias, you'll find out that our calendar is going in a different direction. It's international, so we can speak on that a little bit later, but I'm not trying to drag it into. But statewide, and then working our way a little bit broader to bring in all the women from kind of all over for our calendar. So it's turned into much bigger things than just the calendar that was like our intro, and now our organization is just a whole bunch of fire women trying to make a difference in all different kinds of ways.
And
What
when
was
we
the original?
started, oops, sorry,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just going to ask, what was the original goal of the calendar?
So when we first started it, we had only been on the job for a year, and the person that was running the men's calendar had kind of mentioned to a handful of us females at Tulsa if we wanted to do a group photo that would be featured in the back of the men's calendar. And if you know me very well at all, I was not a fan of that idea. So I got to talking to Alexa, and we kind of talked about doing a girls calendar, and she's the artsy creative design guru. That is not my area. That is definitely, our partnership has worked out well because our strengths and weaknesses are opposite. So it's done good, but we just decided we didn't want to do it. And Mark Meyer with Hydrants of Hope was still alive, and he was in his cancer battle, and we just decided right off from the beginning, Hydrants of Hope that's where we want all of our proceeds to go to. And since we started in 2018, we've donated about $107,000 to Hydrants of Hope, which doesn't include a ton of the GoFundMe accounts that we've donated to. So I would say probably total with pediatric cancer is probably about $115,000 to this point. So it's been huge, and it's been an incredible experience for us because we worked with Mark about how he wanted the calendar. He was in, our first photo shoot, and his daughter was in the calendar when she was volunteering for fire. So to be able to not only give that much financial support, and we have our girls that show up at all the Hydrants of Hope events, so we get to hang out with the kids, we get to know their families. Just that in itself is a really cool experience and feeling. But then now, over the last probably 4 or 5 years, we took Camp Fierce over in 2022, everything has just exploded. I mean, it's just, you don't realize how big the need for a group like this is until you start getting messages from New Hampshire and New York, and girls from Florida and girls from here. And yes, there are other groups, but there's not enough.
Yeah, so for the people that don't know, what can you kind of explain what Hydrants of Hope is?
Yep. So Hydrants of Hope is a charity that is local to the Tulsa area. It was started back in 2012 by Mark Meyer, who was a Tulsa fireman. He has since passed away. He battled cancer himself for 7 years. When he first got diagnosed, he and his wife and daughter kind of thought, here I'm an adult battling cancer, and they're seeing all these kids, young kids, on the oncology floor, and they just wanted to do something to help. So they started selling Hydrants of Hope pins, and that kind of just snowballed. And when we presented the idea to Mark, he was absolutely floored that we wanted to help their charity. And like I said, he was super supportive, and they were on board. And I talk to Selena probably every other week still to this day. So she's kind of like my second crazy mom. But yeah, so who knows, they've probably helped $500,000 to Hydrants of Hope. They host a giant Christmas party that's free for all the cancer kiddos and their families. And they do Christmas gifts and they pay for all the food and DJs and Santa and all kinds of stuff. So just being able to be a part of that, that charity and all the things that they're doing has been super special for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and I've come to the realization the past 6 months because somebody presented it to me this way. For so long, I was a cop. That was my identity. I was a cop. But now I realize I enjoy helping people in general more so than just being a cop. Like I love being a cop, but I love helping people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you guys have that same mindset
Oh, for
in that
sure.
you love being, in the fire service, but you enjoy helping people more than just, responding to fire calls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of us in this service need to have that mindset of we're here to help people instead of just let's just do the bare minimum and go home, boys.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear that. So you guys decide, hey, we're not back page of the men's calendar material. We want our own. How
Mm-hmm.
did that ball start get rolling to where you're like, all right, let's get the ladies together. Let's get this process going. Like how'd that start? Like
Well,
that takes a lot of effort.
If you know Kendall at all, once Kendall has an idea, that idea freaking happens. Like I make shit happen. But Alexa, like I said, she is the one on that crafty, creative, make things pretty side. Like I feel like I run with the idea on the business side of it, and like here, she gets all the
We had
spray
10
paints and
girls.
makeups and
That first calendar, it was so kind of quick and sporadic that we started it.
because we started in July and then released it in November.
2018, and
Yeah.
we had 10 girls, and so we did 2 of the months were February, I remember specifically because we wore like some pink and gray, and it was Don't Hate the 918 because we were Tulsa. And then we did October, we were tattoos. We were one of our sponsors is a local tattoo artist that has decorated Kendall's arm beautifully. But he's still currently is one of our sponsors at Just Another Hole. And so we decided to put all the girls with tattoos on October. So we started out with 10 girls. We had to do a couple group photos to kind of fill in those months. But then after that, it just took off and we were all over. So,
Well, and
So initially, I was just gonna say, so initially when this gets going, did you guys have a lot of people that were willing to participate? Like, were they like, "Hey, let's do this," or did you get any pushback?
there were a
both.
handful, but you could tell that the majority were very hesitant, and that's always been one of our requirements is they had to be hired on for at least a year somewhere, and they had to at least let their HR or chief or whoever know that they're going to be in it, because we didn't want it to be an issue like so many think it is. Like, it's not a trashed out deal. It's pretty much is an awesome freaking calendar to highlight how badass and graceful women in the fire service can be. And that was the whole goal. And so we did, we would have some apply. And what was it? Only twice, I think, did we actually have more than like 15 apply.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle. And we've had a lot of people come back and do it 3 or 4 years in a row. But yeah, it was definitely a tough thing to get some women to do, and we get it. Like, we totally understand why. But
they wanted enough time to get in shape to look
right
calendar ready. Let's just say that.
Well, and
in shape, but
the calendar gave so many of the girls in our organization confidence that they've never had in their life. So that was a really cool, like, we kind of knew that, a lot of them have probably never had photos taken or, whatever. I'm sure they'll probably feel good. But I know I did not realize how much that would affect some of these girls. Because, like we said, some of these girls, don't really wear makeup. They've never had professional pictures taken. They've never felt sexy about themselves ever. And
right. And let me tell you what these ladies do. They don't just say, okay, show up, bring an outfit, throw you in. They pay for the makeup and the hair, so you get all pampered, right? They pay for a spray tan if you want a spray tan, and then they say, pick out some outfits that you would like, and then we'll go
By
through
they, she
them and
means
we'll see what
Alexa.
accentuates. Do what?
I said by they, she means Alexa.
Yeah. But it's a whole process
Right.
that they're bringing to these ladies that have never, because I will also be honest, in the fire service, a lot of the women that you get, they're going to be more tomboyish. We're here to do this blue collar dirty work, right? So
Eyelashes. We put eyelashes on? Yeah. I'd never done that before. And the side story,
yeah.
so Sarah, who is on with Angie in her department, she was a teacher prior, and the first year she came and did her photo shoot, it went from very closed off and kind of just to see her blossom and open up by the end of the photo shoot, and then to look at the camera and see, the product of this evening, and then to see it, in a calendar. She said that she hadn't taken photos like that since her senior year, and she's our age, and so that it just to see that with a lot of the women is great because they're like, okay, I'm all dolled up. I'm gonna go on a date with my husband tonight and look really nice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of like the confidence building is like you got to have the backside of it, the clothes, the makeup. I mean,
The guys have
that's
never
awesome.
seen us like this, so they're like, that's not her.
I know. They're like, she's not
We clean up
recognizable.
nice. We don't have
Well,
grit on our face.
well, and here's the thing: somebody that's never been involved in the fire service, it's good to see that you guys are ladies outside of the job, and
Right.
so like you're not one of the bros like twenty
Just a
four
little rough
seven.
around the edges.
Yeah, but that's awesome, and like to see these women get the confidence to do that, and then they feel great and amazing. Like that's just awesome.
Well, and one of the coolest things too is, and I know with our girls' camp growing like it has, like I go and speak at conferences and stuff about it. And I've been asked so many times, how in the world do that many girls in a group get along? And I was just like, things are a lot different when we're all there to support each other and make sure we're all reaching our potential that we see in each other. And, we have had to ask a couple of girls to be out of the group because their behavior was not what our mission and our purpose is about. We're not creating a group of female badge bunnies. We are
Yeah.
trying to earn respect, and we want people to see that we do belong here. So we have had to boot a couple of people out for that reason. But all of us, like, we freaking work. I mean, you know how women work? Like, we get shit done and it turns out beautiful every time. It may be chaotic in the process and I may look like I'm about to lose my mind, but it comes together and it's not without flaws, but it's pretty dang close.
Well, and not to mention, you guys are doing this on top of working a full time job as well. So
And
that's
having kids and having
yep,
spouses.
yeah, and family. Yeah, I mean that just shows the dedication of like growing this that you guys have. So so for people like myself, explain what Camp Fierce is. You mentioned that you guys took it over. What is Camp Fierce and like what's its objectives?
Yeah, so Camp Fierce actually started out in Tulsa. Was it in 2014, Alexa? I think was when it first started. I think it's been 10 or 12 years. The women on Tulsa Fire started it at their training center. And every year it started out as a 1-day camp, and then it went to a 2-day camp. And then after COVID happened, it just was never really picked up again in Tulsa. Everything was chaotic and it just didn't come back together. And Alexa and I knew how important that camp was because we had helped run it a couple times. And, like she said earlier, we met at a girls' camp. So we know getting girls to see that they're capable of doing this was super important. So we went ahead and overtook the camp, and we have ran with it. And it's been, let's see, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we've done 4 years of camp. And then this year we actually have a second camp that's starting in June, and that is through OSU Fire Service Training. But it's the whole point of camp is now it's 2.5 days, and it's for girls ages 16 and up. And it is a full-blown immersion camp. So they are in gear. They're assigned to teams. They get to play with live fire. They do search and rescue drills. They do different leadership activities. They get to do vehicle extrication. So they get to use the jaws of life. And some of these girls are 4'10" and 90 pounds. And you get to see them hoist up these big ass tools. And my husband always teaches it. And he's just like, Kendall, I see a group come over, and it's like the tiniest girls. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're not going to be able to. He's like, those girls are scrappy. Like, he's like, they were pairing up and lifting it together. And I was like, that's because, like, that's what we're doing. We're teaching these girls, like, you make it happen. But they learn everything. They do a combat challenge. And some of them have become best friends from this camp. And I know Ani, one of our girls, she's a team leader. And her
I've
girls,
known
like,
Ani
she's
all my
still,
life.
oh yeah, she's crazy. We love her. But she still texts with all her girls daily almost that are in her group. And a lot of our campers now have become junior team leaders. So they're on their way and about to graduate high school, and they're the ones Alexa was talking about that are volunteering up north. So I think since we took it over in 2022, we've had 170 girls ish come through. And I think we're close to 30 that are either on a career or volunteer department.
Just for my listeners to know, I've known Ani all my life, literally, and she has always been like the sweetest lady. Like, she's never in a bad mood. She's always
Oh
smiling.
no. Oh yeah.
And then I found out that, later on in life, she decided to be a volunteer fireman, and I was like, I would go in the district attorney's office, and I'm like, Ani. She's like, what? I decided to do it, and I'm like, okay.
Well,
But
now she's the
ever
damn
since,
chief.
yeah, well, ever since then, I've seen such a spark in her that I had never seen before, and like,
I don't
it
know if
makes,
you have seen that full spark in her.
yeah, and
She showed
it's
us
so
that
much.
spark in San Diego.
She is such a like badass. Like,
She
now that, like,
is.
she's taken on that responsibility, and like, I give Ani so much props because, like, she went from this shy, super friendly girl to now she's leading her own department,
Yep.
and that's amazing. Like, it's so cool. Um,
We lost
let's
Angie.
talk. Hopefully she'll join back in. So you guys get this going. It's getting off the ground. Um, is your calendar proceeds, is that going to support this now? Like, is that helping it grow?
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure. All of our merchandise and that kind of stuff. And we also, it's been super important for us because a lot of our girls, the majority are volunteer firefighters. So they don't get the opportunity to go to a lot of trainings and leadership development conferences and that kind of stuff. So let's see, we take 7 or 8 girls to FDIC every year, and we cover the cost of the house for them. We register them for the Women in Fire conference. We flew
For
8 of
those
us
of
to
us that don't know, what is FDIC?
Okay, sorry. So it is one of the largest firefighter conferences and exhibits anywhere in the world. That's in Indianapolis in April every year. So it is a full week long, Monday through Saturday, just chaotic. I mean, it's nonstop. Um,
And that's amazing because, kind of like you said, and it's the same way in the law enforcement world. These smaller agencies, like, they don't get the same training. They don't get
no.
exposed to all the same stuff all the time. That's amazing that you guys are being able to expose them to these different trainings and these big
Yeah.
events, because networking is pretty much just worth its weight in gold these days.
Oh,
Um,
you're preaching to the networker right here.
yeah,
That's one of the ways our organization has
Middle
grown like
name.
it has, because I freaking network. When we became brand ambassadors for Viking turnout gear a couple years ago, the whole reason we even got tied in with them was they came to Tulsa. So Alexa and I got to help do the 3-year design process for the actual only female bunker gear offered from any company. So we got to be a 3-year process with that. And when they came and measured us the first time, we had just had our last cover sponsor drop. And I was like, Alexa, we should see if they would want to sponsor the calendar. And we knew nothing about them really at that point. And I was like, all they can tell us is no. And I emailed Grant the next day, and literally he called me within 3 or 4 hours and was like, we are in. So, you know, they were creating this freaking incredible gear design for women. We needed a calendar sponsor for women. So it really worked well.
A big
yeah.
sponsor.
And it has been such an awesome partnership with them. I mean, they sponsor our camp, they sponsor our calendar. They bring us to a ton of conferences to help sell their female gear, and being able to go to those conferences, you know, we've become brand ambassadors for Phoenix Fire Helmets, which is based out of California. They donated 40 brand new helmets to Camp Fierce. We had Hex Armor, you know, a huge fire service industry company, donate tons of structure gloves and extrication gloves. You know, we've got so many big sponsors, and it's all from networking.
Yeah. I love that, because they would have never got to experience that without you guys. And
yeah,
that's just amazing. So let's talk about, I want to touch on the importance of you guys have already touched on a little bit, but you know, you're sending women in the fire service to leadership development, stuff like that. Can you touch on the importance of having women move up in leadership roles? You know, getting, you know, those next steps. Alexa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said you do hazmat stuff. Kendall, you said you
Just
do.
recently, I just got into
Yeah,
the
you
med
say you do
tech, and
rescue tech.
she's
Yeah,
the rescue, and she and I kind of just recently stepped out of our USAR roles to let some of the younger kids move in. My youngest is just now kind of recently turned 2, so if that was a question that I got asked to me, if you were able to deploy right now, would you go? And I'm like, a week never is a week. It's always 2 or more weeks. Absolutely not. But at the time I was asked that, I was still nursing, and that was just out of the question. Today, it would be really hard. I have a great husband who he's PD, he works nights. So we juggle that, but it's a lot, and so me doing that is, I just kind of had to take myself out of it. I think going to fire conferences is enough of a headache for him to manage a household without me here for even a half a week. So there's just some things we had to give up along the way, but that's just kind of the mom role.
Well, and I think that's what's hard for women to want to promote on this job. Not that they don't want to. And, you know, I
mom's
have not
first.
promoted.
The
I'm
job
a firefighter. Yeah, it's a different world. You know, my husband can go to work and leave the kids for 24 hours and nobody really bats an eye at it. But a mom leaves her kids for 24 hours and you're a bad mom, you're missing out on this. So it's so important to get these girls the experience at these conferences, for them to have the confidence to know that they can promote. Because we do have several girls, you know, like Ani, that's a chief of her department. Amber Townsend just got chief of another rural department over by kind of the like Gore area ish. So getting those girls that opportunity and getting females that are comfortable working their way up the ladder professionally is going to bring more females in and show how capable they are. So I think promoting as a female is super important. It's just, I feel like between running households and handling kids, it's a lot tougher for women. You know, like my husband's reading for captain right now. He gets up in the morning, he goes straight to our closet and he reads until bedtime. That is extremely hard as a mom to do that. And the women that do, freaking give them so much kudos, because they're kicking ass for sure.
And also, like, Not every girl and not every guy is like this, but we take these certification classes here, and there's more guys in them than there are females, and it's real easy for you to go and just kind of fall back because like extrication, for instance. These guys are just like, raw, give me the tools, and it's real easy to just get left out of that. But when we go to these conferences, they can be female specific, or they're just bigger. If they're not female specific, you're still out there with some guys sometimes, but you can get more involved, and it feels like you just learn a lot more. I know just going to conferences and meeting all these other people from different departments and listening to how their departments ran and what they're doing. I mean, just going to the conference and not even taking the classes, because I was brand new when I started traveling with them. And I learned more from that than, you know, anything I had learned yet. So that was my take on all the conferences for sure.
No, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I got out of law enforcement during COVID because I was burnt out. I worked overnights. There's a pandemic going on, and I was like, I'm done being a cop. Terrible time, folks, to take over an insurance agency was during a pandemic. Terrible time. But when I got back into law enforcement, I went to an agency that were like, "Hey, we're big on training. We'll send you to one out-of-state training per year." And I went to a conference in St. Louis, and I met so many international folks and like people from big agencies, and it just recharges your batteries
Oh,
to
it
go to
does.
those conferences and learn and meet these new people. And I actually am presenting now at that conference in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
And 2020 me or 2021 when I left Catoosa, I would have never imagined myself being there. And it's all because I failed at some point, but I learned from it and I bounced back. And we have to do that in this career, for sure.
Oh, we
So,
do.
oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what
And
life
so,
is.
yeah, absolutely. So, what's next for you ladies?
Well, the new
Schedule.
calendar, like Alexa mentioned, a couple meetings ago, as Camp Fierce has grown and we've gained a lot more attention. And like I said, I kind of travel and speak about how to run girls' camps and stuff. We kind of wanted to have a more professional image. And I know Alexa and I, the last couple of years, we've been worn out with the calendar. I mean,
Little burnt
she,
out. We needed some
yeah,
change.
yeah. And, we've been doing it for almost a decade. So it's just, we knew we needed something different, but we didn't want to take the calendar away because it does give a lot of girls something special, and a way to feel good about themselves. So one of the meetings, Angie kind of threw the idea out, and I'll just kind of let you tell a little bit about why you kind of thought that direction would be good.
Well, with Camp Fierce taking head of the girls that are in the calendar, now they're the instructors or the leaders at the camp, right? So, and it just seems like the camp is snowballing into something bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's like, well, the calendar itself, sometimes the risqueness of it, if you will, people have a hard time either selling it or buying it. It depends on where you're at. Um, and it's just like, well, why don't we just merge the two? I mean, all your girls that are in the calendar are helping with the camp, and they are, they're doing things. So why don't we just merge the two and do like live action pictures, whether it's of camp or whether it's them at their department. I'm very blessed. I have an amazing photographer for Tahlequah Fire Department, and he shows up to a lot of our calls. And I just have an outstanding amount of pictures. And so it's like, man, these, and Kendall and
Angie really
Alexa.
hired him. She pays him on the side to follow her and take photos.
Yeah, I didn't
He's
want you
got
to
his
throw that
photos
up.
in so many fire magazines. I think a couple in
Yeah.
Firehouse already.
Yeah.
He had a beer can.
Phenomenal.
There's a beer company in, I don't know where it's at, but anyway, they used his picture for the firefighter beer that they
That's
just
cool.
made. Anyway, yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, it's just like, man, why don't we just merge the two? Because that's what we're doing anyway. So let's get some live action pictures in there of us, of all of us girls. So that was kind of the idea to
That's
it.
awesome.
And
And then
then
we
it's
kind of just
yeah.
we ran with it, you
Mhm.
know.
Since we're Oklahoma, let's go bigger. Let's go international because we know a lot of the women with Women in Fire, which is a much bigger organization, and they're an international. They have a Women in Fire conference every other year. This year it's in Austin. We'll be going to that. The year before last, we went to San Diego, and so networking with them, we Kendall pretty much pulled the plug and was like, "We're going big." So yeah, it's
I told
pretty
you.
incredible. I'm excited. I'm so
I
excited.
do.
It's yeah.
That's
I get to look at
amazing.
all
Well, and
these
it's just
photos from everyone around
well,
the
it'll
world
take
and
Yeah.
so much stress
different.
and pressure off of Alexa too, because you know, girls are submitting their own photos. We don't have to worry about a photographer. We don't have to cover hair and makeup. We don't have to worry about outfits. So they are any female firefighter, career or volunteer, can apply, and they can do that on our website. We've got a little application for them. You can apply if you're within a year of retirement. So we're going to kind of do like a cool dedication page. But this way, you know, the fire service looks different all over the world, but the goal and the heart of service, I feel like, is universal. So being able to see girls that kick ass, you know, on a fire truck in Ireland or Australia or, you know, wherever else is going to be such a cool thing for us to put together into a calendar
Mhm.
and then be able to present it and release it at that conference. Because what was there, Alexa? Over 500 female firefighters in San Diego a year and a half
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
So,
it's
and
pretty
they're expecting an
fantastic.
even bigger crowd this year. So,
And
Well, to be
I
able
don't
to do
know.
those hands-on training classes with 30 plus women, just
per
all whipping hoses
class, like,
around, like
yep.
it's
And I don't know how
it's
many times when we're set up our booth at conventions or wherever selling the calendars with our pinup pictures in it, how many times you would get, oh, so are you really a firefighter? And it was just like,
Oh, yeah.
get out of
Are
here.
you firemen's
So,
wives? Like,
get out of here. Fireman
yeah.
wives, yeah. Do you guys do the cooking and cleaning at the station? Yeah, they do too,
Well,
though.
And that's things you ladies have to deal with on a daily basis, and that's why I salute you for changing that perception. You guys are more than just the people who clean around the station. Like, you guys go out there and do the same stuff that every guy does every day. And so, like, let's change that mindset. Like, you guys can be badasses just as much as I can. Um, Kendall knows. I don't know if everybody else in the group here knows Jennifer, who I worked with at Catoosa, and we got put on a shift, and like for the first like 2 months, we just butted heads, and after that, we got along so great because we kind of had a come to Jesus meeting, but it was never because we wanted to, we had different goals or anything, but we had such strong personalities, and that once we realized, hey, we're out here trying to help people,
yeah.
like we became
yeah.
really good friends. And like after I left Catoosa and she promoted up, like I'll never forget before she got sick. We sat there and talked for an hour one day, and we just were like, man, we had a lot of good times. And so
Well, and
you guys are just as much of a first responder as any freaking guy out there. I promise you that.
well, and I think that's kind of where the fire service has come is it's not spray water on hot stuff anymore. You know, we are much more of a community service agency now. You know, it's much more medical calls and helping, you know, stressful situations out. And, you know, it is not, you know, it's not just spray water on the fire anymore. And
Grunt work.
as much as most of us wish that it was, it's not. So
Yep.
everybody, you know, obviously everybody knows men and women's brains are completely different. And the whole thing in law enforcement and the fire service is you're part of a team because the brains and the minds of the entire team is going to be what brings you home at night. And
Yep.
I think women play a really intricate role in customer service in the fire service. And, we think outside of the box. So our thought process on something is going to be completely different than what yours is, not because either one of us is right or wrong or any better or worse, but we just think about it different. And that may be what's needed for that next call.
We're
Yep.
natural caretakers too. I mean, there's a female that, we're running on, especially, I mean, if I were having a baby in the back of a car, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't want some guy standing there. It's like, just get me to where I need to
Male
go.
cops,
If there's
male
a
IMSA, male
female,
firefighters.
anybody, which most of the time I feel like across Tulsa right now, it's like 50-50 with any kind of medical service, PD, and maybe not so much fire right now, but I think our police department is definitely hiring a ton of women. But most of the calls we go on are mental illness, homelessness. I mean, I feel like most of the time having a female on a call, if not two, definitely kind of de-escalate the situation, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. So where can they you touched on your website. Give everybody your website where they can get the calendar at, where they can fill out to participate in the calendar. Like, let's get the deets out.
So the rules for the calendar, it did open February 1st and the applications will close May 1st. So girls it's www.oklahomawomenonfire.org, and it's called Fierce on the Front Line. There's a tab for it. They can click on the tab and the application's right there, and it tells all the things that we need and that are required. And then there's also a spot if a business or organization is interested in sponsoring it. We've got 10 of our 12 months sponsored right now. We still have some open spots on the back of the calendar also. And then there's also a spot for Camp Fierce. So if somebody's interested in sponsoring Camp Fierce, they can fill out a little form, that'll come to one of us and we'll get back with them. And then registration for the Stillwater camp opens up March 15th. So that information is also on our website. And then we've got Facebook, Oklahoma Women on Fire, and Camp Fierce. And then we have Instagram as well. And we have TikTok, but hell, I don't TikTok. So we've got a couple of our other girls that do the videos.
So I'm going to ask you all three two hard-hitting questions, and you each got to answer it, so there's no getting out of it. And I'll just go in the order. Angie, what's your one thing that would make the fire service better moving forward?
Oh, better? Well, for Tahlequah specifically, or just as a whole?
Just in general, the whole career.
Man, that's a hard question. What would make it better?
I told you it's hard hitting.
Shit. I didn't know I was going to be put on the spot like this. Man. It just needs to get used to change. Like, change is good. And if we can get over that hump of accepting that, instead of holding on to old ways, I think we would soar even higher.
Yep. Kendall, what about you?
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking about it. One thing that I know would make it better is if we could get a damn slide instead of a fire pole in our station, but that's kind of off a topic. I think, this is a life in general lesson, and I'm just as guilty as the next person, but trying not to judge somebody before you have the opportunity to get to know them yourself, because I feel like the fire service is like a hair salon. It's funny that it's male dominated because they are much more of the chatty, gossipy women than women are most of the time. But, I've had a ton of people that are like, oh, you don't want to work with him. You don't want to work with her. Like, and we immediately want to take that experience and make it applicable to the situation. And it ruins the opportunity for what you could be seeing from that person. So, like I said, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, but I think just trying to overall get to know somebody that you're working with yourself before you judge them for what everybody else has said about them.
I love it. Alexa?
Well, first off, I was going to say more women in the fire service so we can make the change from the ground up. And with that, promoting. But honestly, the negativity at the table, oh my gosh, morning shift change, whatever it may be, most of my career, it's like, oh, we don't make enough money. Oh my gosh, I struggled most of my life. I had to work 5 part-time jobs. I was on food stamps. Like I came from nothing and I'm making more money than I am now. And I am I'm more comfortable than I've ever been and I am blessed beyond measure. And so when these guys are talking about, and they have mansions or boats or whatever, it's like you've never struggled, have you? Like you need to humble yourself. The complaining is just skyrocketing. And so that, but kind of with what she said, the negativity, the talking about one another, but really just the complaining. And I think that's just with everybody. But you can definitely change the room. Um, there was a guy I follow online, and he said that he noticed that every now and then his captain would just get up abruptly from the table, push his chair back, and get up. And it was around that time that the table kind of just the negative talk kept harping on and on and on. And that says something. It changes the shift in the room, and um, you kind of think like, okay, did I say something? And then hopefully that kind of trickles down to let's stop being negative. Let's start talking people up, that kind of thing.
Change
So
culture.
yeah, for
Well,
sure.
and we all have experiences, and we've all had traumatic, not just on the job events, but bad divorces and issues with, co-parenting and, just life in general. Like we've all got a struggle and a story, and you never know what somebody else is dealing with or going through or how low they feel, you know. So we just need to be overall more understanding of that. And like I said, I'm as guilty as anybody.
I
I
also
agree.
have a sequel to that answer.
Okay.
And it's probably what everybody expected me to say first. And I don't know why I didn't say it.
Let's just love one another.
Can we get some better standards for physical fitness, please?
Angie's
Yeah.
working on it.
I
Yeah,
am. And
that's
my
awesome.
guys, man, they're hitting it hard. I'm so proud of them. It's awesome.
They're always like, oh, thank God Angie's not working today.
Burpees for
Whatever,
That's
breakfast.
awesome.
now they're all texting me like what they're doing and and we're in challenges and it's awesome. But there really needs to be for this job and what we have to do, there needs to be a high set standard because otherwise we're all ending up hurt.
Yep. One thing before I get to my last question, and Kendall, I apologize in advance because I'm from small town Oklahoma, but the fire pole thing is actually a real thing.
We have four stations. We
It
have
cut
four
out.
stations. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stations in Tulsa that still have, what is it, 4 stations? It's
Yeah. We
first,
have 4
fives,
stations.
2s, and 24. So we've got 4 stations with fire poles still.
That's amazing. I love
But
it.
people do have fire poles to slide.
That's
Oh, because
that's
my
awesome.
battery is getting low. Yep.
Well, I will
There
wrap this up really quickly. Um, Ladies, if today is your last day on this earth, what is your one thing to make the world a better place? Angie, I'll start with you.
well, I'd start somewhere else. I went first last time.
All right, Alexa.
This is really selfish, but if it was my last day on Earth, I'd want to spend that entire day with my family. That's the first thing I go to before you said to make this world a better place. Um, get right with God. I mean, if I'm not already, but for sure, I'd spend that day with my family. first
I
and
love
foremost.
it. There's
Forgive.
nothing wrong with
Ask for forgiveness.
there's nothing wrong with making family time in this
Yeah.
career. So no, I love it. Kendall, what
There's
about
not
you?
enough of it.
I think for me, it's gonna be like because my daughter's 21, and I think to go along with everything that I have now kind of created and am about, and the reason I love Camp Fear so much is I want girls and women to not just think about this career, but that's something I've always tried to instill in my daughter is it is okay to be strong. It is okay to be confident, and it's okay to freaking create boundaries with toxic people if it's needed. And I feel like if we, as women, we are so trained our entire life to behave, act, and do a certain way because that's what is expected. Like for me, if it was my last day, I would want my daughter and my nieces to know those few things. Like, don't let anybody dim your light, don't shrink yourself, and freaking be a badass and be proud of being a badass.
I like it.
Angie?
Mine is gratitude. I mean, just have gratitude and appreciation for everything, and your entire life will change if you're looking at it like out of the view or perception of gratitude. Like everybody's lives would change completely.
I love it. Ladies, you are always welcome back on the show. Thank you for joining me tonight. And we will make sure that you guys keep up the badass success. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
having us. Bye.